Today, I wanted to talk about something that this is a tough one. It's a tough one, but such an important part of your self worth journey. And it is self compassion and self forgiveness. And I wanted to actually open with a quote that I read. I've been going through this beautiful book. It is called Good Morning, I Love You, and it is by Dr. Shauna Shapiro. I highly recommend this book. It's such a beautiful book. It really focuses on mindfulness, self-compassion. In fact, the subtitle is Mindfulness plus Self-Compassion Practices to Rewire Your Brain for Calm, Clarity, and Joy. So this is Good Morning, I Love You with Dr. Shauna Shapiro. And in the chapter on self-compassion, she starts with a quote by Frank Ostosecki. And the quote says, "We need to see how the habit of constant self-judgment diminishes our life force, steals our inner peace, and crushes our souls." Oh my gosh, I'm going to read that again. We need to see how the habit of constant self-judgment diminishes our life force, steals our inner peace, and crushes our souls. We're so good at being kind and compassionate and forgiving to other people. We're so great at being good friends. You know, if a friend comes to us and has an issue, we will be kind and compassionate and loving. And yet it's so hard for us to extend that same kindness and compassion to ourselves. We're often the hardest on ourselves. And I actually read in a different book that I was reading on self-worth and self-love, how often we can actually be bullies to ourselves. I've mentioned this book before, and I'll mention it again. It is called Nonviolent Communication by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. And in there, he has a chapter where he talks about how we are bullies to ourselves, how sometimes the way that we speak to ourselves can actually be considered violent communication, because it's so easy for us to beat ourselves up. It's so easy for us to be hard on ourselves in ways that we would never be hard to somebody else, somebody who is a friend, who is, you know, even not a friend, right? If somebody, a stranger came up to you and said, "Hey, I'm having a really hard time," we would be kind and compassionate and say the right things. And yet we don't say those same things to ourselves. And so let's talk about, why is self-compassion and self-forgiveness so important in our journey to self-love and self-worth? Well, they're critical because if we cannot allow ourselves to be kind to ourselves, how do we figure out what our self-worth is if all we ever do is beat ourselves up? And self-compassion is also so important in terms of us building resilience. And why do I say that? Well, a lot of the time we all make mistakes. We all do things that perhaps we didn't intend, or especially now at this time of year, I think it's very easy for us to get caught up in the looking at the year, you know, doing a year in review and realizing all of the things that we didn't do, all of the things that didn't work out, all of the things that we wish we had done, all of the things we wish we hadn't done, and to beat ourselves up. But when you're beating yourselves up, is that wonderful quote about you can't be in judgment and in curiosity at the same time. You can't be looking at what you did from a place of judging yourself and being harsh on yourself while being curious about what you can learn from it. And so it's really shifting our mindset and going from a place of looking at things as mistakes and really looking at everything as an opportunity to learn and an opportunity to grow. Now, I've had people who've said to me, well, I don't know, like self-forgiveness, when you're just forgiving yourself, it's letting yourself off the hook. That's something that I've heard people say. But it's not. If you approach it from the right perspective, it's not excusing the things that you did. It's not condoning the things that you did. It's not minimizing them. It's not ignoring them. Self-forgiveness is really about allowing yourself to learn from what happened. It's allowing yourself to take responsibility for what happened, and it's allowing yourself to take accountability. And also for you to be able to set intention for how that experience is going to allow you to learn and to grow as I said. And so, really, as you go through this, and especially as I said now, as we come to the end of the year, it would be so easy for you to beat yourself up about all of the things. And so, what I'd love for you to do as you come to the end of this year is to really look at yourself from a place of self compassion. Look at yourself from a place of self forgiveness. Love the quote from Maya Angelou. It's one of my favorite quotes. And she said, "When I knew better, I did better. When I knew better, I did better." But I actually want to suggest a little bit of a change to that quote. I love Maya Angelou, rest her soul, but I want to change that because when you say, "When I knew better, I did better," it implies that at that time you didn't do the best that you could. And I honestly believe that for most of us, we do the best that we can under the situation that we're in with what we know. And so when you know different, then you can do different. So that's how I would like to look at it is when I knew different, I did different. And what I'd love to share with you is something that I actually found in a beautiful book. It's by Dr. Shaina Ali, and it's called the Self-Love Workbook. And she has a bunch of, I really have loved going through this workbook. She has a bunch of different exercises that you can do that allows you to look at forgiveness, forgiving yourself. And one of the things that she suggests that you start by doing is thinking of times when you have struggled to forgive yourself. When have you struggled to forgive yourself? And then really understanding, why was it difficult for you to forgive yourself? Was it because you felt some guilt? Was it because you felt you could have done something different? Was it because you wished you hadn't done what you did? But really looking at, because again, you can't be curious, you can't change from a place of being in judgment. It really is looking at it from a place of curiosity. Okay, why did I do what I did? What would I do different? And so she says, start by asking yourself the question of, why is it difficult for me to forgive myself? And then asking yourself this key question, what can I take accountability for? What can you take accountability for in that situation? Perhaps it was a situation where there were some things that were outside of your control. What was outside of your control? What was within your control? And then really analyzing and thinking about, reflecting on, what's the lesson that I can learn? How is this here to help me learn? How is this here to help me grow? And then what do I need to let go of for me to move forward? What are the things that you need to let go of? Because remember, when you don't let go of all of these things, all of these anchors, all of this pain that you carry, it anchors you down, it weighs you down. There's a podcast episode that I did several weeks ago where a mentor of mine said to me that you should treat life like a backpack. And he said that every day you go through life and you wake up every morning and imagine you put on this backpack. And as you go through your day, you pick up experiences, you pick up things, you pick up whatever it is. And some of the dense and heavy things that we pick up are the times when we don't forgive ourselves, when we beat ourselves up, the times when we have guilt about things. And then we carry that around with us. And what he said to me is, at the end of every day, reflect on what went on in your day and ask yourself the question, how can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? And then he said, treat it like a backpack, unzip it, open it, take those things out and lay them aside because they've gone. The only place that they exist now is in your mind, in your memory. And so you have the choice. You are the thinker of your thoughts. You can choose to let that memory go. You can choose to make peace with it. And so I'll ask you, as you go into these last few weeks of 2021, what are the things that you need to forgive yourself for? What are the things that need for you to move into 2022 without the weight of them on your back? What is it that you need to let go of? What is it that you need to sit in reflection of and ask yourself, what could I have done different? What would I do different the next time? Or if it's someone that you need to reach out to say, I'm sorry, do that. Allow yourself to go into the new year fresh. Allow yourself to go into the new year with a renewed sense of what is possible for you, and not with the weight of what happened in 2021. And so I really highly encourage you to spend some time looking at yourself with compassion, forgiving yourself for the things you did, for the things that you didn't do, and going into the new year knowing that in order for you to feel worthy, in order for you to feel self-worth, it also requires that you be compassionate with yourself, that you have self-compassion. Thank you, as always, for joining me today. It is always such a pleasure for me to do this, to be here, and for all of you who join every single week. And if you have ideas, if you have suggestions for things that you would love for me to cover in the future, for things that you would love for me to talk about when it comes to our self-worth, our self-love, let me know. But what I want to remind you is this: you are worthy, regardless of what has happened in the past, regardless of what you have done in the past, regardless of what you have failed to do in the past. You are worthy to create the life of your dreams. You are worthy to be, to do, to have whatever your heart desires.